Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. In this video I'm going to talk you through my favourite books of 2021. I actually read quite a lot of wonderful reads in 2021, despite my reading rather slowing down throughout the end of the year in particular. But I just picked books really well. So yeah, I'm super pleased. And I think I had a grand total of about 14, 15, something like that, 5-star books. And I didn't want to clog a video up with all those, so I decided that I was just going to whittle it down to 7 because 7's my lucky number, so I thought why not. So it was quite a difficult decision to whittle it down, and I went back and forth quite a lot, but I have done a top 7 for you in order, so let us begin. So in at number 7, one that I read right at the end of the year, and that is The Secret Garden, of course by Frances Hodgson Burnett, but this has been adapted as a graphic novel by Maria Marsden and illustrated by Hannah Lugenfeld. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. I loved rereading The Secret Garden in a graphic novel format. I thought it was just wonderful. It's one of these books that you can just so easily adapt for a graphic novel because of course a lot of it occurs in a garden, and seeing lovely plants and stuff, I just loved it. And I love how it is kind of, yes, children can read this because of course it is a children's book, but also it's done beautifully so adults can enjoy it as well, and I love it. And I love the simplicity of the illustrations, and I love how the story of Mary's past was told through snippets throughout the book rather than shoving it all in the middle, at the beginning, sorry. And yeah, I just really loved it and thought it was wonderful. And again, I love how the message of Frances Hodgson Burnett about gardens and their power, I love how it just came through the pages. I thought it was wonderful, and you really get the feeling of Mary as such a brat at the beginning but learns kindness and consideration for others by the end. And this is just a little snippet of what the illustrations look like, and yeah, it was such a wonderful way to reread one of my favourite books. In at number 6 is a non-fiction, and I loved this. I would say I read 3 in particular fantastic non-fiction books. This one, Kitted Out, and the book on Diary of a Blitz, ambulance driver, that one was fantastic as well. Those 3 were wonderful, knocked my socks off, and to pick was really hard, but I did pick this one in the end. This is the Churchill Girls, the story of Winston's daughters. This book was fantastic because it's just an area of history that I know very little about on this side. So when it comes to Winston Churchill, I kind of know him in a negative light in a way because of the women's suffrage movement. He was so against the women's suffrage movement. And then when I saw this book kind of advertised on the History Press, because it's published by the History Press, on their Instagram and social media and stuff, and I was like, that looks really good. And they kindly sent me a copy, and I was like, actually, yes, it is really good. And it's fascinating, and it's wonderful to learn about the same era of history but in a different way. And I just thought it was fantastic, and it doesn't feel like you're reading a heavy non-fiction book at all. It just flew, and these women are fantastic, really interesting women. And I definitely saw Churchill and Clementine in a new light, and yeah, I just loved it. In at number 5 is one that feels like I read such a long time ago, but it is The Unpleasantness at the Bologna Club by Dorothy L. Sayers. This is a Lord Peter Wimsey mystery, and I think this was the last one, like full one of hers that I had to read, and oh, it was so good. So this starts at Lord Peter's club, and a man dies there. But then it turns out that we need to find out who died first, him or his sister, who died very close together. And they need to find out because of the wills that's happening, who gets what, depends on who dies first sort of thing. And then it finds out, actually, did he die naturally or has someone had a hand in it? I really enjoyed this all the way through. I thought 4 stars, it's really good. And then the ending. And the ending, I was shocked. It knocked my socks off. I was like, what is this? This is incredible. And yes, that's why it deserved its 5 stars. So good. Lord Peter was on top form in this, and I love Bunter. Lord Peter and Bunter together are fantastic. I just wish this was in a Folio Society edition because I've got so many in the folio, but not this one. In at number 4, another one that I read right at the end of the year. This is Miss Brown's Friend by F.M. Mayer, and this is a tiny little book. It's 32 pages. So this book is about a woman called Miss Brown, who is a woman of middle class. She is single. She just does whatever she likes with her time. She paints pictures. And then she's reading a newspaper, a magazine, sorry, and in the magazine it says about rescue homes, and women of her particular class should be helping women in these rescue homes, and that's what Miss Brown does. She goes to one of these rescue homes to try and help someone, and she sees this woman who is very beautiful but very out there. Her presence is known, and Miss Brown's like, oh, I hope I end up with her. And she does, and she tries to help her, but often doesn't quite come to term, and it's very funny and it's very warm, and I fell in love with it, and I've read it quite a few times since, and it's just, do you know what's so good about it? It's tiny, it's 32 pages, yet I feel there is so much character development in this in comparison with so much that I read, and it was just so wonderful, and I was smiling and laughing one minute and I felt like crying the next. It was spectacular, and I definitely need to read more F.M. Mayer, so this is wonderful. Top 3 now. In at number 3 I have Not at Home by Doris Langley Moore. This is one of the books published by Dean Street Press, part of their Furrowed Middlebrow imprint, similar to like Persephone and Handheld Press and British Library, republishing books from early to mid 20th century. So this book, oh, this book is wonderful. This book is about a woman who has this very nice house, and she's could do with the money, and she's on her own. She's rattling around this big house, so she decides that she's going to rent out part of it. And a kind of mutual friend says, oh, you should get this woman called Mrs. Banks to come and have a look. And so this Mrs. Banks is walking around. She's kind of fallen for it, but very soon, literally by the end of showing her around, our main character has decided, no, I don't like her, and you know, it's too late by then because she's too nice. And the novel is pretty much trying to get Mrs. Banks out of her home and it is absolutely hilarious. It's so much fun, and Doris Langley Moore is such a good writer, and I have no idea why her books ever went out of print because I've never laughed so much. Like, this was like P.G. Wodehouse level of laughter. Honestly, it was so funny, and it was so infuriating because I hated Mrs. Banks. I was like, get out of the house, get out. But yeah, it's one of those characters, love to hate, and it was spectacular. Down to my final 2. At number 2, I have Mama by Diana Tutton. This came out a little while ago now, earlier on in 2021, and oh, so this is a book about a woman who was quite young when she got married, and she had a daughter. Again, she was quite young, and daughter has grown up, got herself engaged, and said to her mum, I'm coming home with my fiance. But the fiance is closer in age to mother than daughter, and mother starts to have feelings for the fiance. So that is the plot of the book. But to be honest, nothing happens. It's one of those books where nothing really happens, and you know what? It was magnificent. I love books about nothing. I love books about the mundane, everyday life that just feels like little time portals, and this one felt like a little time portal. You read it, you step back into the 1950s, and it was marvellous. I loved the 3 main characters. They were just wonderful, and this book just fills me with joy. Just such a joyful feeling when I read it, and yeah, hence why it was at number 2. And if you haven't got round to reading it, please do. And if you have read it but you didn't, you know, didn't knock your socks off, please try it again, but with a different head on, of just thinking of relaxation and turn your brain off and just think of just enjoy the mundane little bits. Like there's a bit in this where they talk about a skirt, and it is the most wonderful passage ever, and it was just, yeah, I just loved it. So please read it, please reread it, it is so good. And now my favourite book of 2021. I feel like I've done you a little disservice really, because my favourite book of 2021 is not a book that is easy to get your hands on, to the point of actually I don't think you probably can get your hands on this. I really want to read some of the author's other works and I just can't, because I can't find any. But my favourite book of 2021, and now one of my favourite books of all time, is Designs by Jo by Elizabeth Ann Laring, by the author of Night After Bond Street. Doesn't Night After Bond Street sound amazing? Yes, it does. So this is a book from the 1930s. Very me. And this is about a woman called Josephine. Josephine lives a very boohoo lifestyle. Think Delicia LaFosse, yeah, from Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. She lives a very nice lifestyle, but she doesn't have to pay for it because Daddy pays for everything, because Daddy is a fashion designer. And Josephine goes to parties and she goes shopping and she has days out with friends and she gets her nails done and her hair's done, and that's her life. And she's bored of it. She wants to run her own fashion business, and she says this to her dad, and her dad's like, no. And her friend, who's very kind, very wealthy, says, I believe in you, I'll support you. And so her friend gives her the money to set up her own business, and off she does. And it is so great, and it's about that and friendship, but there's also an air of romance in it, and she dates this absolute turd on a stick who I hated so much. And I was reading this book and I was putting it down every couple of pages. I was like, no, I've just got to calm down, and then to pick it back up again, and then I'm just like, no, I've got to calm down, because I was getting so infuriated with this character. But oh, I just adored it. It is so me. It is about friendships and romance and fashion of the 1930s, and it's just a gorgeous book, and I utterly adored it. And I really want to read Night After Bond Street, because that sounds incredible. But yes, so far I've not been able to get my hands on it. But yes, this beautiful book from the 1930s was my favourite book of 2021, and I have to say it's now one of my favourite books of all time, and it is going to sit right next to Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson, another book from the 1930s. They are my favourite books. They're just, yeah, just amazing. Amazing. So there we have it. Those are my favourite 7 books of 2021. Let me know what your favourite books of 2021 were in the comments section below. Did any of these surprise you? Were you shocked by any? Or did you think, yep, you knew my favourites already? Am I that predictable? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I shall see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.